I want you to imagine you being handed your record of deeds on the day of judgment, and you're asked, what did you spend most of your life doing? Now, Allah told us our purpose is to worship Him, but worship doesn't just mean prayer. It's caring for everything Allah gave you, like your family, your body, and your soul. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to make worship enjoyable by going through a step-by-step framework that makes worship fun. So the first step is to become a completely different person. Now, I know it sounds unattainable, but just hear me out. This is coming from someone who's done the same thing. There are countless stories of brothers going from gang life, broken homes, bad relationships, to becoming some of the most practicing Muslims that I've ever seen. Sheikhs and imams now.
I was around 8, 9. We came to the US. Was in a very rough neighborhood. A lot of gangs, fighting, all kinds of cartels.
Of course, you stayed away from that.
No, I didn't stay away from it. I got pretty involved in it, yeah. But alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided me.
But this doesn't happen by accident. Some external force pulled them into Islam and worship. So how do you do this practically? We can't just rely on something external to come and turn us into the Muslims that we want to be. So here's what you do. You have to curate your environment in every way to become the Muslim that you want to be. And you have to get creative with this. Look around you. Is every aspect of your life pulling you towards worship or hindering you away from it? You have to get really analytical and analyze things like your friends, your media consumption, your hobbies, the food you consume, and your physical living space. And ask yourself this hyper-specific question. Would one who enjoys worship have an environment like mine? How would this person walk, talk, do, be, act? Constant reminders and visual cues are essential for making this work. And it's simple common sense. You're not going to see a boxer training in a bakery. It's the wrong environment, and therefore it's the wrong identity. It just doesn't make sense. You can't be the person that you want to be by staying in the same environment of your past self. When the companions of the Prophet accepted Islam, they had constant visual cues and reminders from the Prophet himself and the rest of the companions. They became completely different people. They almost always had an example of Islam right in front of them. They couldn't escape it. And if you want to live more like the Sahaba and become the most disciplined version of yourself, there's a course that's linked in the description. I promise you, it'll make all this so much easier. Now, step 2 is to eliminate alternatives. And I was at a Jumu'ah khutbah last Friday, and the Imam was telling us a story about Imam an-Nawawi. He was telling us about how much he avoided playing unnecessary games for doing stuff that took him away from his goal, which was the memorization of the Quran at the time. Imam Nawawi would literally cry as a kid when his peers would try to force him to play games with them. Imagine loving your craft and your worship so much that you would cry if it was taken away from you. And Imam Nawawi was born in 1233. He didn't have the modern day vices that we had. He didn't have TikTok. He didn't have video games. Who knows who Imam Nawawi would be if he had those things at the time? You have to eliminate the alternatives. You have to create friction that discourages you from doing what gets in the way of your purpose. For example, I have a device at home called the brick. And before I go to record the videos, I activate my brick, and now every single app on my phone is completely blocked. And no, it's not a thing where you could just bypass it by hitting 15 minutes later. No, you actually have to scan the brick again. So what I do is I scan the brick, I leave it in a completely different room, I work on the videos, and if I absolutely feel like I have to do something else, I scan it again, and then I do what I have to do. And if you combine any of these with the power of the ahlif, you would get literally insane results. Now, if you don't know what the power of the ahlif is, I'll briefly say it right here. It's where you make an oath to God to do the good habits that will help you with your purpose. You have to do it the right way. So here's an example. If one of your forms of worship is training and you have to wake up early to train because you have other obligations in the morning like school or work, you would say, Wallah, I make an oath to God for the next 90 days, I'm going to sleep at 10:30 p.m. max. Now, the key thing with this is that it's not a massively hard habit to do at all. You just have to stop doing what you're doing at 10:30 unless you're addicted to staying up late or something like that. This won't be a hard habit for you. You just haven't committed yourself to doing it, and you haven't had God's level accountability to commit yourself to doing it. Now, it's really important that you make a time for this because you don't want to feel like you're betraying God if you make this promise to yourself and God, but the habit doesn't serve you anymore. For example, I don't have to sleep at 10:30 anymore. It doesn't work for me. So I put a time-bound limit on it. If you just say, Wallah, I'm going to fall asleep at 10:30 p.m. every single night, when does that end? Are you allowed to make exceptions? Do you get what I'm saying? And another thing is, don't use this on addictions. You're setting yourself up for failure and disappointment. Just don't do it. Take my advice. And I'm going to say it again, make sure you use it on something that is relatively easy. Stuff like not eating junk food, not listening to music in the car, small, easy things that you know you can accomplish, but just haven't made the commitment to it yet. Now, why do we want to eliminate alternatives in the first place? Because when you do that, all the other options you have left become way more appealing. I mean, would you rather stare at a wall for 90 minutes or work on your craft and your worship? I know I would rather work on my craft than just stare at a blank wall. There was actually a comedian that used the same tactic, but I'm forgetting the story and I'm pretty sure he's a Zionist. And even if staring at your wall technically requires less physical effort, you still would rather do something else that's harder. Think about that. You know, our grandparents literally got dopamine from reading the newspaper, right? They would read the newspaper and get dopamine from that, or they would read a book, a really good book, and get a lot of dopamine from that because they didn't have what we had. They didn't have these products that were designed to hyper-stimulate you. And they are designed to quite literally hyper-stimulate you and make you addicted to them. Every aspect of Instagram's UI, for example, is designed to make you hooked, to get you to stay on the app for as long as possible. That is the purpose of these apps and all these other devices. It's designed to be as pleasurable as possible. So no wonder you think reading the Quran is boring. Of course, when you're comparing it to crack, it's painfully obvious. I mean, they had nothing else to do. And imagine if those books contain knowledge about the deen, like you'd be unstoppable. Step 3, bring a companion. The Prophet ﷺ once said to his companions, make things easy, do not make things difficult. Give glad tidings and do not repel people. Work together and do not be divided. Now we're going to unpack this. Look at how powerful this 1400-year-old advice is. Work together and do not be divided. We'll focus on that one. Now, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to bring a friend with you to the masjid or to the gym or to your boxing class or whatever form of worship? Because if you bring a friend with you to do some hard work that gets you closer to Allah and you do it consistently, you'll automatically start associating the positive emotions that you get from it with the hard work itself, making you way more likely to stick to it. I mean, think about it. Have you ever played a video game that's terrible, like a terrible video game, but just because it had a co-op mode, just because you're allowed to play with your friends, it makes the game so much more tolerable? You've heard this before. You can make any game fun, despite how bad it is if you're playing with your friends. The power of companionship is amazing. And you know this, obviously. The Prophet ﷺ had a bunch of companions. He didn't do this on his own. And the companions relied on the other companions. This lone wolf thing is stupid. It's idiotic. It just makes getting to your goals harder and way more time-consuming. So make it easy on yourself. Make things easy. Do not make things difficult. And that's how you make worship fun. And I'm going to give you one more bonus that'll make all these other steps so much easier. Make sincere dua for the next week that you'll be able to accomplish these 3 steps. And I promise you, you will see the change in how much you enjoy worship, inshallah. And if you want to enjoy the grind and enjoy worship just as much as the Sahaba, like Khalid ibn Walid or Umar ibn Khattab, like I said, there is a course that teaches you how to live like the Sahaba, to become literally the best version of yourself, to make the grind so enjoyable, more enjoyable than scrolling TikTok, more enjoyable than playing a game. I mean, for example, Khalid was so obsessed. He would obsess about the nights before he went to battle with his soldiers. He said nothing is more enjoyable than that. That's how obsessed he was with his form of worship. And trust me, living more like the Sahaba will literally change your life, just like it changed mine. Learning how these companions lived their lives and implementing that into your life, it'll completely change the trajectory of your life and it will make you become the best version of yourself. So again, the link is in the description. I really believe in that. Wallah, this fly is making me so angry. Till next time, I hope you enjoyed the video. Ma salam.